All right. Okay, so here we go. All right. Hey, everyone. So I can't see the chat just yet, but we are going to get into it. So my name is Vanessa Jaffard, and I'm Vice President of Education and Outreach at Planned Parenthood of Maryland. And so today is really a session all about geared towards you. We could stay as long or as short as possible as you want to today, but this is kind of an opportunity from, what I was, told and when I was invited in, that this is an opportunity for you to ask questions related to your sexual health, but also for us to just, kind of have an open forum to talk. So Planned Parenthood, just for those who may not know, is the oldest and largest provider of sexual and reproductive health care services. So a lot of people might be familiar with our clinics. If you live in Baltimore City, we have a clinic in Baltimore City on Howard and Mulberry Street. So if you've been to Lexington Market, we are about like 2 blocks away from Lexington Market. And we see folks of all ages and mostly dealing with everything related to below the belt. So that's what I mean by sexual health. So like I said, we see everybody, no matter who it is. And we have 7 locations across the state. So if you don't live in the city, we have our centers in Towson, Owings Mills, Waldorf, Annapolis, and Frederick. So please let me know if you need any support. Also, the thing that a lot of folks don't know that we do at Planned Parenthood is education. So a lot of my job is going out to middle schools, high schools, all the way up to senior centers to teach people about their sexual health. So I've heard it all. There's no conversation that's too shocking. And I talk about sex for a living, which is amazing. So just to give you a heads up, during COVID, we have a lot of telehealth services being offered at Planned Parenthood, meaning that, basically we have a platform that you can download if you need any of these services, and the doctor will just talk to you on something that looks like FaceTime. So we're still doing birth control prescriptions. We are doing that. We are also referring folks and having folks come in to pick up Plan B. So if you need Plan B, which is also known as emergency contraception, Plan B needs to be taken as soon as possible after unprotected sex. And so you have a 5-day window. So the sooner, the better. It's most effective the sooner that we take it. Plan B is $25 at Planned Parenthood, as compared to if you go to Walgreens, Rite Aid, it could be anywhere between $40 to $65. So Planned Parenthood always has Plan B, even if you don't need it now, for 25 bucks. We're also, if anyone feels like they are having an asymptomatic STD, meaning that asymptomatic means you might have had some unprotected intercourse and you don't really have too many big symptoms, but you feel like, I should probably get tested. We will refer you out to go to LabCorp and get the STI testing. We are doing STI treatment. So if anyone has an STI, sexually transmitted infection, and they need their medicines, etc., we are still seeing patients for that as well. Urinary tract infection treatment, gender affirming care. So if anyone would like to transition, we do hormones for folks male to female transitioning and female to male transitioning as well, and also other services that accompany that. So that's one of our newer services. We help people with the legal aspects. We help folks get referrals. We also help folks like with the supplementary services, like if somebody wants to do their, change their voice a little bit, etc. We offer all of that within our gender affirming care services. We are also doing PrEP and PEP, which is basically pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is basically a medicine that someone would take if they believe that they are at high risk for HIV, and it cuts someone's risk of getting HIV drastically. So it's one of the awesome things that we offer. Options counseling, if somebody is pregnant and they're still trying to figure out, what they'd like to do, we do have options counseling available. We are doing refills for anybody that needs any of their medications refilled. And we are also doing limited in-person visits. So what that means is if somebody still needs an abortion, we do abortion care at Planned Parenthood. If someone suspects that they have an STI and they're showing symptoms, they might have a rash, they might have bumps, whatever that may look like for someone, we are seeing people in person for that. Somebody needs their depo, we are doing that as well. Pick up for their meds, urinary tract infection, symptoms with a fever. If someone suspects that they have that, we will definitely see you in person. LARC issue, which means long-acting reversible contraception. So if somebody's on Mirena, if somebody's on a copper T IUD or any type of IUD and they're having some issues with it, we'll definitely see you in person. And then emergency contraception, if someone, Paragard, which is the copper T IUD, is another way that folks can make sure that they get long-term birth control, but also it's the copper T IUD can be put in place for emergency contraception as well. And we're seeing folks to place those as well. So if anyone needs any of these services, of course, I'm available and I'll drop all my information in the chat, but you can call to set an appointment at 410-576-1414, or you can also set an appointment online. You can just go to ppm.care and we will make sure that we see you. All right. So thank you, Brianna, for placing that in the chat. If anyone has any specific questions for me, I'm going to put my email in the chat. And I'm also putting my phone number if you need anything as well. So, sorry, I'm going through the chat to make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, so those are some of the services. Just FYI for everybody on the line, in the state of Maryland, all minors are able to receive reproductive health services. So that is almost most of the services, except for abortion care that has a different set of laws with that. But minors in the state of Maryland are able to access reproductive health care without parental consent. That does not mean if you want to include your parents or bring your parents, that does not mean we're going to be like, nah, leave them parents at home. What that basically means is that if someone experiences any barriers or if somebody, needs to access any of these services, the only other thing missing on this list is being able to get condoms. You can come and get condoms from our health center at any time, no appointment needed. That changes a little bit. You might have to call the center if you do need condoms, and if you do need condoms and you need someone to bring them to you, me and Brianna can coordinate and get that to you. But minors in the state of Maryland are able to access reproductive health care services without parental consent. All right. And so that does not mean, that means that your parent will not be called. They will not be called if you decide to come in. And also, unless you want them to be called. All right. So a lot of young people don't know that. They think that they need their parents to sign off on things. They think that they need their parent permission, which is a barrier to young people getting care. At Planned Parenthood, we see everybody on a sliding fee scale, meaning that if you have insurance, we're going to take your insurance. If you don't have insurance or choose not to use your insurance, we will do it based on your income. So if you don't have any income, your services most likely are going to be free or donation based. If you are making some money, there's a scale that they do in order to at least have you contribute to your visit. All right. So spread that around. I know a lot of young people miss out on asking the questions that they need to ask or getting the care that they need because they feel like they need an adult there. And so again, that does not stop you from talking, does not stop you from bringing them. If anything, definitely include trusted adults in your decisions and talking. However, please know that the state of Maryland law is just that, all right? Also, another service that we're offering right now is our text line. So for some people, they have tons of questions, don't know where to turn, or just need to know, just have some education one-on-one on the spot. We have a text line, and that is the number right there on the text line. We have the text line in English and in Spanish. So please feel free to text at any time that's my marker falling. please text if you need anything or know anybody that needs anything. We also have an email line related to that too. Most likely you will get a response as soon as possible. If you send it really late at night, give us 24 hours to get back to you. But this is also a service that we offer for anyone that has questions or need to be linked to any type of services or need advice. There is someone there for you that will answer that text line. All right, what questions do we have so far? I want you to drop them in the chat. What questions have come up for you? I'm going to drop the number of the text line in the chat as well. All right, so before we move on, I want you all to either take a moment, unmute yourselves, or you can drop it in the chat. I want to know what you hope to talk about today. Why did you click on this link? Or why did you come here? What do you hope to get out of today's chat? So I'll give you all a second to either unmute yourselves or you can drop it in the chat. All right, so nothing. I see y'all. Y'all out here. Okay. Okay, so I would like to learn some things about that. I'm a girl, by the way. Okay, cool. So this is a part of an open forum where you can ask whatever questions you want. I have a presentation on healthy relationships we can get into, but if you're like, all right, girl, I'm cool. I don't need a chat on healthy relationships. You know, we don't have to do that. We can just have an open Q&A session as well. So for my person who wrote in the chat, I'm gay, so I'd like to learn some things about that. Tell me more. What do you want to, thanks, Logan. What are some questions that you have that before we jump into things? And everybody else, feel free, this is your time. Feel free to jump in, share in the chat any questions that you may have. And if you don't want to chat it out to everybody, you can just hit on the chat function. You can hit Vanessa and it will send it to me privately and I will not say your name. Great question. Someone asked, is Plan B always effective? So the thing about Plan B, which is funny because I got a box sitting right here. So the thing about Plan B is that Plan B is not 100%, right? So the only thing when it comes to having sex or not having sex is is not having sex at all. So, you know, when it comes to, and we're talking about sex, I mean, not engaging in oral, anal, or vaginal sex. And the reason why I break it down like that is because oftentimes when we think about sex, we're only literally thinking about, you know, activities that can get us pregnant. But as long as we're exchanging bodily fluids, we need to think about how that may impact our ability to potentially get an STD, right? And so I want us to think about anal, oral, and vaginal sex. So when I say anal, I'm talking about anything dealing with the butt. When I say oral, anything entering the mouth. And when I say vaginal, I mean anything dealing with the vagina, all right? And so when it comes to Plan B, what Plan B is basically doing when we're thinking back to pregnancy, and if we're thinking about our science classes, egg needs to meet sperm in order for the process to start, right? And so what happens is that egg comes out of the ovaries. Hold on, I I got props for that. So when we're thinking about, this is my vagina model. And so when we're thinking about eggs from the female, the eggs are in the ovaries, which are right here. And what they're going to do is travel into the uterus, right? Travel to the fallopian tubes first, which are these spaghetti structures right here. But they're basically every single month, once a person that has vagina and has ovaries starts going through puberty, every single month, one egg is going to leave that ovary. And basically our bodies are like, let's get pregnant, let's do this, let's do this. And what basically is happening is your body, like biologically, that's what your body's trying to do. Your body's trying to get you pregnant because that is the function of our biological cells, right? And so once that happens, the egg leaves the ovaries, goes to the fallopian tube, and then in the fallopian tube, if that person has unprotected sex, basically the sperm are going to swim up into the vagina, in through the uterus, this pink little organ right here. And in real life, the uterus is about the size of our fist, and it is below the belly button, and it's the place where we feel cramps if someone experiences their period. And so the sperm are swimming, trying to find that egg. And what happens is that that sperm is going to, one sperm, all it takes is one sperm is going to try and find that egg in the fallopian tube. If they meet, that's where fertilization happens. Fertilization happens in the fallopian tube. And so what then starts to happen is that they travel down and they land in the uterus. And what starts to happen is that they'll implant in the uterus. That's how we know pregnancy is occurring. And we have to have fertilization plus implantation in the uterus for pregnancy to occur. Once it implants itself, it starts to grow, divide, the cells divide, baby, about 9 months later, right? And so what Plan B basically is trying to do, Plan B is like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. Hold on, can you remove the slide so we can see your tools? Absolutely. So let me stop sharing for a little while. So here we go, right? So this is the vagina model. So of course, the opening of the vagina is not just a hole and an opening like this, but what we're seeing here is that this structure right here, and let me point to it, this structure right here is your ovaries. And so typically people who have a vagina and uterus and ovaries, they have two of them, right? And so what happens is that this egg lives here, and female babies are born with all the eggs that they're ever going to have for the rest of their lives. Unlike people with penises and testicles, where basically they're making sperm 24 hours a day, every single day of the week, because like once they start going through puberty, right? And so we're born with ours, and then males are producing sperm all the time, right? Which is why they're able to have babies until they're like 80 years old. And so what happens is that this egg is going to leave this ovary and then travel to the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube is where fertilization happens. And then that means the sperm has traveled through the vagina, has gone down, it's trying to find the egg, it's traveling through the uterus, and then boom, it's looking for the fallopian tube. And so it's finding the egg in the fallopian tube. And so the question from earlier was, is Plan B always effective? The thing to know about Plan B is that, and I went through this process, because Plan B essentially is like, okay, let's try and stop implantation in the uterus from happening. Like, if we can stop that from happening, then fine, we will prevent this pregnancy. Now, if a person's already pregnant and they decide to take Plan B, there's nothing that Plan B is going to be able to do for them. The thing about Plan B, like I said, Plan B has an effectiveness date up to 5 days from unprotected intercourse, right? And so the sooner we take it, the most effective. So we are, every single day that we wait to take that Plan B, the less effective that it becomes. So your best bet is as soon as you realize the condom broke, or I forgot my birth control, whatever it is, the sooner we take the Plan B, the better, all right? And so like I was saying, Plan B is $25 at Planned Parenthood all the time. The other thing to know about Plan B in relation to that awesome question I got earlier is that Plan B is weight dependent, right? So that's why I gave y'all a couple of options. So the plan B, that like this one that you can just like go to the store, this just says plan B, emergency contraception. If you go to Walgreens right now and you just take that plan B, depending on, it's weight dependent, meaning that if somebody has a BMI over 30, which is a lot of people in the United States, plan B may not be as effective for that person. The most effective plan B for folks who have a BMI over 30 is the prescription plan B called Ella. So between Ella and another form of plan B is the copper T IUD. So if anyone has ever seen an IUD, which is a plastic shaped T, which is a form of birth control that goes into the uterus. So it has to, a doctor will place it through the vagina and place it in the uterus right here. That's your most effective form. And it also provides you 12 years of a birth control protection that you can get taken out anytime. But the thing about plan B is that we need to be mindful that depending on our BMI, which is body mass index, it may or may not work the best in our bodies. So just be mindful of that as well. That was a really, really, really great question. And let me know if that made sense. If it doesn't make sense, y'all, stop me, unmute yourselves, drop it in the chat, whatever you need to do to let me know, you know, what you understand or don't understand. I'm more than happy to go over it again. I really appreciate these questions. I see some more coming down. Another question we have here is, there's a lot of ways to protect yourself as a straight person, but what do you do to protect yourself in this way too? Good question. Give me 2 seconds. I have a whole box of things to show you. So here we go. So when it comes to protecting ourselves when we're having sex, and when I say, when we mean protection, we mean like, hey, you know, I'm trying to be responsible. I'm trying to not spread STDs or get any STDs. So let me go ahead and protect myself. So the thing to know about STDs is that STDs mean sexually transmitted infections. And so sexually transmitted infections means that we are able to spread infections that can potentially make us sick through blood, vaginal fluids, semen, and skin-to-skin contact, and breast milk. And so let me say that again. STIs, or sexually transmitted infections, or sexually transmitted diseases, or STDs, are spread through breast milk, blood, vaginal fluids, semen, and skin-to-skin contact. And so when I say skin-to-skin contact, I'm not talking about this, hey, I'm talking about you may have your clothes off and you're grinding with somebody else. You don't necessarily need to have penetrative sex in order to spread an STI. So we need to be mindful of that. Like if somebody has an STI or STD called genital warts, right? Or herpes, you don't necessarily need to have penetration in order to spread that. It's literally the skin to skin contact with that opening or with that sore that can spread it to our bodies as well. So I want us to be mindful because there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to STDs. A lot of people will still tell me like, oh, you can get STD from kissing. No, you can't. That is absolutely false. You cannot get an STD from using the toilet after somebody else. Totally false. Now, when we're talking about kissing, and some people might be like, well, what about herpes? Or what if you got a cold sore? Yeah. So the cold sore, the cells of the cold sore going into somebody else's mouth, that can spread cold sores in that way. That can spread, cold sores are a type of herpes, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're always sexually transmitted. Some babies might get that cold sore from their grandma having a cold sore and kissing the baby in the mouth, which is why a lot of people are like, don't kiss my baby in the mouth, right? So it's really important that if we do have cold sores or we are prone to get them, it's really important to know how to protect ourselves. Meaning that if we notice that we're really stressed out, for some people, cold sores are triggered by stress, or they might be triggered by us getting sick, like our immune systems are down. That may not be the time that we want to have sex. And so what we're finding is that folks who have cold sores that might have oral sex or mouth to genitals, mouth to private parts, whatever you want to call it, interactions, they can potentially spread. They can, you know, that cold sore can turn into genital warts on somebody. So we want to be mindful. So I say it's really important that you know your bodies, right? If you feel that tingling coming from your cold sore, that is the time that you can spread it most likely. So you want to minimize any of your sexual interactions during that time. And especially when it's open and it might have, you know, pus or whatever coming out of it, that's also a time that we might want to be like, you know what, let's do some other things. Let's just cool it until I'm able to get this under control. And there are plenty of medications to help suppress the amount of cold sores that we might experience. If we have genital warts, there are medications to try and suppress that in our systems. All right, so when we talk about the ways to prevent the spread of STIs or STDs, it's important that we know all of our options with protection. And so I really appreciate that question. The first thing that we know about is the male condom or the external condom. I'm sure we are so used to these. We see them all the time. The issue with the male condoms is that, I have some questions popping up. The issues with the male condoms is that, like, yeah, folks wear them, but they don't always wear them correctly. And so depending on who we have sex with, this is always important to know how to put on, right? Because I teach sometimes to, it might be a class of all women, they're like, I don't need to learn, I don't have a penis, but you need to know that someone's putting it on correctly, right? And also for us who might be using, as somebody had indicated at the beginning, who might be using certain toys in their sexual experiences, you do need to learn how to put a condom on or put a condom on to, depending on what the practices are that you have, but in order to ensure that you have double cleanliness when it comes to the toys that you might be using, and also depending on where you're using that toy, it might just be easiest rather than, you know, pulling it off, cleaning it every single time with every single act, pulling off the condom and using a new condom with every single act. So everyone should know the steps to putting this on, whether you are the person putting this on correctly or not. So let's try and put this on correctly. So the first thing that you need to do when putting on a condom is what? Can somebody tell me? Because I've done a lot of talking. And you can type in the chat, and I'm going to allow you, I'm going to unmute all of you so that you all can. How are y'all suddenly in here? How am I seeing y'all now? That's strange. But anyway, I'm allowing you to unmute yourselves. So if you see someone coming across your screen, that's what's happening. Not yet. So feel free, if it's easier for you to just talk rather than type in the chat, feel free to unmute yourselves, and you can tell me what is the first step to putting on a condom correctly. For the people that I just let in, did you hear what I was saying this whole entire time? Because I couldn't see you in my little boxes thing. I see Tiffany trying to talk. Oh, go ahead, Tiffany. I can see you now.
I'm sorry. Yes, we can hear you, and it's been amazing. Thank you. I can't see anyone on here. I actually thought I was the only person on this, but you did an amazing job. So yes, we've heard you. I'm going back off.
Cool. I was like, wait, no one else popped up. And now that I hit all these buttons within the last few minutes, I see everybody pop up. So anyway, back to us, y'all. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is check the expiration date. Let me move this chat box out the way. And so, okay, if you can see my screen, we have a thing right at the top that says EXP. Let me point it out for you. So EXP right here. And this is expired, y'all. It's expired, I know so, but this is demonstration purposes. So we want to check the expiration date. So the expiration date on this is November 2018. We're a little late, but we still gonna learn, okay? So the first thing we want to do is check the expiration date. The next thing we want to do, so with this condom, you can see these ridges, and they'll probably make noise. You can hear that. The ridges are there for you to be able to open the condom easily, right? And so for some people, you're gonna be like, yeah, girl, I'm about to put it on you, girl. Don't let them do that. There's just no need to do that because we can puncture. So what we're going to do is move the condom to the side. And the reason why we're moving the condom to the side is so that we don't rip it or potentially have a tear in it when we're trying to open it. So all we need to do with our hands, boom, really quickly, look, you see you blinked and you already missed it. It's already open that quickly, right? And so depending on the condom that you have, let me talk to certain people in the room, because certain people they're looking at me like, Vanessa, how dare you pull a lifestyle out on me? And I say, wait, don't hang up yet. I got the gold ticket for you. I know that's what some of y'all like. Some of y'all are like, listen, I don't know nothing about what you're talking about unless we have a gold ticket. Not everybody's a gold ticket person, but that's neither here nor there. I have another one here. I just want you to see that there are a million varieties of condoms. So when folks are like, I don't wear those, or that don't fit me, or I don't like those, there's a whole bunch of different condoms. So this one is a Trojan Nirvana, and this one is an ultra thin condom. And so this is what the package looks like. And as you can see, there are the ridges at the top to help you open it. And also we have our expiration date. It's really fancy, but your expiration date here is 2021. Same thing with the magnums. We have the ridges right here. Great. There's a great question that's popping up in my chat that says, does the price of condoms correlate to their effectiveness? No. So here's the difference between lifestyles and these. And do I have any others? I would have to get away from the screen again to show you my collection of condoms. But the difference in a lot of these condoms is basically their marketing campaigns, right? So you notice for the people in the room who were born in the late 80s, early 90s, like I was, Champion, when we were coming up, was like, if you're like, and I'm talking about Champion the brand, was like sold at Walmart, and people are like, what are you wearing? But now there's like commercials towards Champion. It's like the cool thing. And like, people are wearing Converses. Converses weren't always that, that cool as they are now, but your marketing campaigns and the money that you spent on marketing them is what's the difference is. So all condoms go through the same rigorous process for their effectiveness, meaning that they're made in the factory, and they are, blown up, and they're like rolled down, and they go through all these rigorous practices to ensure that they are safe for us to use, right? And so the difference in condoms essentially is basically like how much marketing money and how much clout essentially does the condom have. We know these have a ton of clout because everybody's trying to be a Magnum person. This is another Trojan. Trojan just has like, they got commercials, they got articles, they got a whole bunch of stuff. Lifestyles, it's just a matter of preference, right? So there's nothing superior or not superior about these. It is what it is. It's literally people's preferences. And that's what really makes a condom. So that's why I have a bunch in my house, and I try to encourage folks when they have an opportunity, try all different types of condoms, because there are certain condoms that certain people like that other people don't. There are some condoms that are like, yes, I love those. I love an ultra thin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we really just need to figure out what works best for us. And I see another question popping up, and I'm gonna get to that in 2 seconds. So we've opened up our condom. This one is non-lubricated. Let me show you a lubricated one. So this one is lubricated. And so the difference is, you can see like this one's really dry. You see how they look exactly the same, right? So condoms essentially the same. So the thing about the non-lubricated, I'm using this one today, and typically folks who want to use their own lube, and if you are using latex condoms, you want to use a water-based lube that looks something like this. Wet is a brand of lube that people can add on to their condom. When it comes to lube, if we're running out, if we're having a go all night session, you do not want to use coconut oil, shea butter, olive oil, whatever you got, lotion. Do not use that. And do not use spit either, because spit is not a good lubricant either. It does not keep everything going. You want to use a water-based lubricant, or you want to use a silicone-based lubricant that can keep that. And the thing about lube, do I have an open bottle for you here? The thing about lube, I'll open this one. The thing about lube, and I just want to show you, is that it mimics natural body secretions. So do you see how that's like gel-like? And so what it's trying to do is mimic our natural body secretions so that there's no friction. We do not want friction when we're having sex. And just FYI, the thing to know is that if we're having painful sex, we need to stop. There's nothing about sex that's supposed to hurt, even if it's like, you know, we're a newbie to the game. We want to make sure that folks are breathing, that folks are doing things that they want to do, that their nerves aren't overpowering them, and that we also want to make sure that they feel relaxed enough and also aroused and turned on enough in order for those natural juices to flow. But again, the reason why I bring up lube is that because a lot of people think that, oh, only old people use lube. Oh, I don't need to have all that. This is a fountain and whatever. Nah. The thing about lube changes from person to person, and it may change depending on what's happening in your bodies and outside things. Like certain medications affect the amount of lubricant that we might naturally produce. If we smoke weed or cigarettes, that affects it. If we take diabetes medication, that affects the amount of lubrication. So there is no shame in getting lube, because lube only enhances all the feel-good sensations when having sex. So lube is your friend, okay? All right, so let's get back to our condoms. See, I went off. So we have our condom here. The reason why I'm holding it like this, and you saw me blow into this, is because there's a 50-50 chance that we're going to put this on correctly. So this is what typically happens, right? So I have a penis model here where I'm going to show you how to put this on. If you would not like to see this, you can turn off the video. I will walk through it and I will tell you when I put this away. But in 2 seconds, I'm going to use the penis model to show you how to put on a condom. And here we go. All right. So typically what happens is like people are like, yeah, I opened up the package. Here we go. Let's get it. Yeah. And so what tends to happen is like people are like, all right, let's go. Put this on, right? This is not correct. And then some people, if they put it on incorrectly, they might take it off, flip it on, and then now they're stuck here, right? And so if we're ever putting on a condom or see somebody putting on a condom and they can't roll it down easily, that means they put it on the wrong way. And so what we need to do, this is why I recommend getting a ton of different condoms so that in case you mess up, that's okay, it happens. What we cannot just flip this over and keep going, because as we know, or some of us may know, when a person with a penis gets sexually aroused, something called pre-cum, or a small drip of fluid comes off the top of the penis. It may or may not have live semen in it, but it can definitely carry STDs in it. So it's really important that if we are flipping this, right? If we're doing the flip, what can happen is that that condom picks up that STD and it could potentially go into our partners. Now, if this is the only condom that we have, you were like, oh man, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I have no other condoms. I want you to flip that thing over, wipe it off, and keep it pushing, because I'd rather you use a condom than no condom at all, okay? So it's really important that we have a lot with us, but if we don't and things happen, make sure that you are using a condom than no condom at all right? So let's get to it. So we have our condom here, and we want it to look like a baby bottle nipple. And we want the ring of the condom to be on the outside, all right? And so typically, this is what I mean by the ring being on the outside. We see the condom coming from, look at doing this on video. We see the condom coming from the middle, the nipple-y tip of the condom coming from the middle, and we have like a hat at the end. We have a brim at the end. We want a brim to be around so that we know that we're putting this on correctly and we're able to roll this down, all right? So once it comes out the package, I personally like to blow it to see which way the brim is to make sure I'm gonna roll it down correctly. And then what we also wanna do is make sure that this penis, if it is with a person, is fully erect. Look at me. Fully erect. This is not the time to be like, I'm gonna just put it on, because some of my students are like, look, I'm gonna put it on, I'm gonna grow into it, and I ain't gotta stop. No, no, no. It needs to be fully erect so that we know that we're putting this condom on correctly and that we are getting the full length that we need to put on this condom. So penis needs to be erect. We got our brim ready. We got the condom ready, and now we are going, and boom, we're placing. And the first thing we're gonna do is, if you don't know anything else or can't remember anything else I tell you, what you wanna do is pinch that tip. We wanna pinch the tip. So you see, I like a good healthy pinch. You see that on the other side? Healthy pinches, right? Don't give me the little baby pinch from the top. Don't do that. Give me a good healthy, I like to give a 2-finger pinch, so I make sure I'm in there. We're pinching and we're rolling. Pinch and roll, pinch and roll, pinch and roll, pinch and roll. We are keeping this pinched while we are using the other hand to roll. The reason why we're pinching is for what reason? Why am I pinching this tip, y'all? Tell me in the chat or unmute yourselves. Why are we pinching the tip of the condom? You can unmute yourselves. Or yes, perfect. Yes, we are leaving room for the semen so it won't break. Y'all, come on, scholars, I see y'all. So yes, this is what we need. We need a pinch, we need some room at the top in order for the condom to not break, in order for there to be room for the semen. What typically happens in this instance, and when people typically use condoms, for the people who are like, I don't like to use condoms because they break all the time or they pop, a lot of the reasons why they're breaking or popping is because we don't have room for the semen. So what starts to happen is when this penis starts to ejaculate, the semen or the cum or whatever you call it starts to shoot up the top. And then if it doesn't have room, it's either going to pop at the top or it's going to start to seep down the side. And it's going to be like you didn't even put a condom on in the first place. So if we're going to put on the condom, we want to make sure it works. So we want our tip. You see here, we got some room. We got some room here. What we want to make sure is that this tip is flat as well. That's why it's important. That's why we are pinching and we are rolling at the same time, because if there is air in here, it will also pop or break. So we want it to, we want to make sure that there's no air. There's no air pockets or air bubbles here, and that is completely smooth as we are rolling it down. And as you can see, there's designs here. Look at that. Okay, come on, designer condoms. So it really depends on what you're, like I said, what you're looking for. Now, we have arrived here, and what starts to happen at the end of this experience? This is not the time when we're done to be like, hey, was that good for you? Let's cuddle. No, it is not time to cuddle if we still have a condom on. The reason being is that once a person ejaculates, the penis starts to go down in size, right? And what starts to happen is that this condom may slip off and may stay inside of our partners. So it's really important that after ejaculation, a few seconds after, we grab the condom here at this brim, and we are taking a hold of it and we are pulling away from our partners. And I say away because what people typically do, like they'll just like find it and then they'll still stay there with our partners right here in front of us. And then they might fumble with the condom, and then everything in the condom might fall out right onto and into our partners. So we don't want that. So I say pull, make sure you find somebody somebody in the situation needs to find this ring, pull out and away, and make sure they throw it away in the trash, not the toilet, because we don't want to clog up our drains, all right? So that's the male condom or the external condom. We also have our female, I have a bunch in front of me. We also have our female or external condom. So this is what the female or external condom looks like. And so I'm not going to open this because this is super duper 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 lubricated. So this is what it looks like when it's been washed or dried off. And so as we can see here, there's a ring on the inside and there's the ring here. All right, so I'm going to take out the ring so you can just see it. So this ring here is to help anchor the condom in place because this condom is going to go into the vagina. It is also important to note that somebody in the situation needs to pick the condom, right? We do not want to wear these at the same time. And especially if our barrier to wearing condoms is, well, I can't feel anything, you're definitely not going to feel anything when you have two pieces of plastic rubbing together, right? So somebody needs to pick one. All right, so what we're going to do is when it comes out the package, we're going to flip it over. We're going to pinch this ring, and then we are going to enter this condom into the vagina. Now, this is where people forget. They get to this spot, and then they forget they need to hold the condom open in order to ensure that the penis is going inside like this and not like this, all right? So we want to guide the penis to go inside the condom for that second and make sure it actually goes inside, and then we should be good to go. Once we're done, we're going to, why am I doing this? Why am I twisting? Somebody tell me in the chat or unmute yourselves. Why am I twisting? I'm gonna make sure I go back and unmute everybody. All right, let's see. So none falls out. Come on, somebody. We don't want anything falling out. So we're twisting, and then what we're gonna do is pull out and away. And so when I say anchor the condom in place, this is what I mean. We have that ring is in there to help keep the condom inside of the vagina so that it's not slipping and falling out, all right? So this is the female or external condom. The other thing to note with the external condom is that you cannot, you can come to Planned Parenthood, you could go to your local health department and get these, but they don't sell these at the store, and it's really unfortunate. So if you want these, and if you have, limited funds, you might want to come to Planned Parenthood or the health department to see if we have them, because a 3-pack of these on Amazon is $24. So the best way to get these, if you don't come to Planned Parenthood or the health department, is to get a prescription from your doctor. These are available by prescription now. And again, if you need these and you're like, that's my thing, and I can't wait for a prescription, let me know. Let your Greater Baltimore Urban League folks know. I was reading it right there. Let them know, and I can figure out how to get them to you as well. The benefits, the pros of wearing a female condom is, one, if we have a partner with a penis that's like, look, that ain't my thing, I don't want to wear condoms because they're too tight or they're restrictive, or like I can't get hard with it on. That's okay, because boom, we got plenty, you see this hands? Plenty of room here, okay? So there's a lot more room for everybody. Also, if we're thinking about this model, the clitoris is up here, and the function of the clitoris is the feel-good times, the pleasure. If you ever felt a heartbeat down there, that's the clitoris. And so this outer ring rubs up against the clitoris and helps with pleasure. Also, when we're thinking about STDs, the female condom has more coverage, right? And so it covers the lips a lot more, rather than if we're looking at the male or external condom. And so it covers the lips a lot more. And so when we're talking about the STDs that we can get just solely through skin-to-skin contact, it covers more surface area as well. And also, it just gives, folks with vaginas a little bit more power in their sexual decisions, rather than waiting for a partner to put one on. Or if you have a partner that's like, I just forgot my condom. Say no more, fam. I got mine. Or you might care, and you know what? Or you might be like, I got mine. What's up? Here. No, here. Okay. So, so you always gotta be prepared. You gotta be ready, all right? And the number one thing I forgot to mention about your condoms is that, oh, someone asked about latex. Female condoms are non-latex. Doesn't matter what brand, wherever you get them, they are non-latex. Male condoms or internal condoms, they come in non-latex and latex, depending on where you go. So the health department and Planned Parenthood, we offer them, but we may not get the non-latex batch all the time. So they do sell them at the store as well. And it'll say it on the box, non-latex condoms, all right? And so again, sometimes they might be hard to get them, but they do make male condoms non-latex as well. And if you're ever having sex and you instantly feel the need to itch down there, that may mean that you have a latex allergy. You cannot get an STD that quickly. I've had my students be like, I had sex yesterday and I was on fire, and you can't get an STD that quickly. STDs take a couple of weeks to show up in our system. So if it's happening, you feel like super itchy down there, it may be your latex allergy. So I suggest stopping what you're doing, taking a shower, resetting your parts, and using a non-latex condom to see if that will help. That is what I'm about to get to in 2 seconds. So another way to protect ourselves when we're talking about having sex is the dental dam. So you see how stretchy this is? The dental dam is a latex piece of plastic that a person will use to cover parts while having oral sex. So watch. So we have our dental dam here, what you're gonna do, and these come in different flavors. Hold on. This one is fruit punch. What you're going to do is lay this, or have the person hold it, or you lay it across the vulva. And the vulva is all of these parts that you see on the outside. The vagina is the opening. It's just a matter of some vocab. So what you're gonna do is place it, do your thing. This is the tongue. And then you're done, right? And then you will throw this away. Dental dams, they are not sold at the store either, which is a bummer. So if you need these, Planned Parenthood has these, the health department has these, and you can also buy these on Amazon. They come in different flavors. Like I said, this one was fruit punch. They come in vanilla, they come in grape. They have all types of flavors. Or some people don't like having a flavor and they like using their own flavored lube. And so what they'll probably do is put some lube on the outside for themselves. And then what they can do for added pleasure is add some of this lube on the inside, or add it on the person's parts, so that, there's some feel-good sensations for everybody in the situation. We can also use a dental dam for mouth to anal, mouth to anus. Yes, mouth to anus. Some of you might know that as eating the groceries, eating blank, whatever you want to fill that blank out with. This can help you. So again, you're going to put it, you're going to, and then you're going to perform. All right. So this is when we're thinking about ways, because some folks have asked, all right, well, I'm a woman that has sex with other women. What can I do? This is really one of the great strategies that we have. But also, like I said, just because we might be a woman having sex with other women does not mean, a lot of people like to incorporate fingers into their play. We want to make sure that if we're using fingers that we are, you see how, we have some short nails here. We want to make sure that we are scrubbing underneath of our fingernails, because we don't want to spread germs that way. We're not going to spread STDs, but we definitely can spread some bacteria, and vaginas are very sensitive towards bacteria. So we want to scrub, we want to wash, and even now during COVID, there's no better time than practicing all the hand washing in the world, because as we know, COVID, or the Rona, can be spread via saliva. So we can definitely catch Rona from kissing, not STDs, but coronavirus could be spread through kissing, and it could be spread from me touching something earlier that had the virus on it and touching someone else. So we really want to be mindful of washing our hands. Also, for a woman having sex with other women, if we are using fingers, there are many, you might see them at the store. They look like mini condoms. They're called finger cots. And what we'll do is roll that on our fingers in case we do have a cut or we're like, look, I just want to be super careful. You can put finger cots on your fingers and, you know, have any digital play or finger play that you want, safer. And also, when we're talking about women who have sex with other women, we want to be mindful of what we're doing with the toys that we're using. So some folks feel like, look, it's a toy party. Let's do the thing. I'm having fun. You cannot put things in different holes all the time, especially if we're talking about people with vaginas. You cannot do anus to the vaginal opening. So if you're using a toy and you're going from back to front, it is important. It'll just be easier for cleanliness practices to ensure that, one, you are cleaning your toys. You need to clean your toys, it's important. But two, if you put a condom on your toys, it's easier to take off that condom from one opening and putting on a condom for another opening. So we're not cross-contaminating and causing any bacteria to be exchanged. All right, does that make sense? I think I got it. I think I got it. And also, we need to be mindful, like I said, of the bodily fluids. So a lot of people think I have sex with women, I don't need to worry about any of that stuff that she's talking about. Yes, you do, because we need to be mindful. We may not be able to get pregnant, but we can definitely get STIs or STDs in our mouths, and they can be spread. They can be spread around our bodies too by just simply having oral sex with someone. So remember, vaginal secretions, semen, blood, breast milk, and skin-to-skin contact are all ways. Also, if we are having sex with someone on their period, that's blood. That can potentially be spread, y'all. So we have to think about all of these methods in some form and combination can definitely help us in being safer, all right? All right, let me scroll up and let me know if you have more questions, drop them in the chat and we will answer them. Okay, I'm scrolling back up. Sorry, a lot of great questions are coming in. I appreciate y'all asking these great questions. Okay, so we covered the ways to protect yourself if you're not a straight person. Beautiful. Can you show this on the bigger screen? Okay, got it. I'd like to hear about any tips. I'd like to hear about any tips you could provide that you think teenage girls should know. Feminine health. Okay, so that's a really good question. I'll get to that in 2 seconds. Okay, and then I have a question here about HPV and vaccines. Okay, so let's start with the hygiene. And I really appreciate this question because I think this is not just a thing for, is not a thing just for young people. Feminine hygiene or vaginal hygiene or taking care of our parts is something that we all need to learn about, and things that are constantly changing, right? And so a lot of us, the hygiene practices that were learned from our moms and grandmas, right? And typically what happens when I tell somebody, and I'll tell my classes, do not douche, right? Do not use douches. Do not, you don't have to spray your parts down in sweet pea and brown vanilla spray. And somebody will be like, oh, excuse me, my grandma, I know what your grandma told you, but the thing about our grandmas, the thing about our moms, they had different science back then, right? And we've learned over time. So what we know now is different from what a lot of them learned. Like a lot of people who are in their late 60s, 70s, they were told to douche with Lysol. And we know what we're using Lysol for right now, right? This is killer. This is to kill viruses. If it's killing viruses on door handles, imagine what it's doing to our insides, right? So the science is different. What they learned is so different. And so what we know now is that a lot of our grandmas, my grandma used to put baby powder everywhere. I mean, everywhere, right? And so what we know now is that the chemicals in baby powder, and through years of lawsuits, what we know now is that that baby powder has chemicals in it that can potentially cause cancers. in people with vaginas. So it's super important that, you know, I like this question. I think this is really important. I love this conversation because a lot of people we just need to learn, and we need to have these conversations. And sometimes it's super embarrassing especially depending on the setting and how old we are. Because I know when I'm teaching like 8th graders, there's always, and if it's a mixed class, there's always a boy that's like, she smelled like fish. Sir, have you smelled balls? Like, they are not always pleasant. Like, you're not about to be sitting here shaming people for their bodies. And so I think some first things first that we need to be mindful of is that when it comes to the vagina and how we clean the vulva and vagina, is that, oh, got a puppet. The number one thing to keep in mind is that we don't need to ever stick soap inside of the vagina to clean it. It's really important that we use, if we are going to use soap, because soap is not necessary for everybody. Some people are really sensitive towards soap, is that what we want to do is clean and get in between the lips and the flaps, right? Because that's where we might have some bacteria that could be caught, like, you know, just regular funk, just like you gotta wash into your armpits, right? And so we want to do a squat in the bathtub or put our leg up, and we want to make sure that we're getting in between the lips, right? And if we are going to use soap, we want to, you know, put some on our hands and then get in between the folds. The reason why I didn't say washcloth is because what happens with washcloths, unless you're using a new washcloth every single time, is that we'll use a washcloth and then we'll hang it up in the shower. And when we hang it up in the shower, it does not dry completely. So you got other people showering in there. So that's other people's skin cells. You got moisture, you got mildew. If somebody's spraying down the bathtub every time they're done using it, all of that is getting on the towel and then coming back to us, which can cause, you know, infections like bacterial vaginosis, etc. And so if you are like, I don't know what you're talking about, Vanessa, I need a washcloth, then you better have a collection of washcloths that you are using brand new every single day, because sometimes the washcloth is picking up that bacteria that's circulating in the air in the bathroom, okay? So, and then for some people, depending on what their anatomy is, so this is the clitoral hood, so this is the clitoris here. For some people, this is what their anatomy looks like, right? The hood covers the vagina. For some people, it looks like this. For some people, because they're like, what hood, right? And so it's super important that wherever we have any folds, we want to like make sure that we're just taking some mild soap. And when I say mild soap, I'm talking about Dove, oil of Olay, something that doesn't have a fragrance. For some people, ivory, like a light ivory works, oatmeal type of soap. And so again, some people are very sensitive towards fragrances. And again, if we notice like our bodies feel a little bit weird or like something is not sitting right, it may mean that like those chemicals are not for you. Like I know for me, I can't use any glycerin-based soaps. It just, I don't know. Don't ask me why, but something like a Dove may work. And when I say mild, I mean mild. That means do not use Irish Spring down here. Look at me. No, Irish Spring will just clear this whole thing on out, okay? Also, we do not want to use any antibacterial soap. So I know a lot of us right now, we're using Dial, we're using all the antibacterial stuff because we are in the middle of COVID and we get that. But we do not, antibacterial means no bacteria. We are killing bacteria. Inside of the vagina, this is a whole ecosystem of bacteria and yeast trying to live in harmony with one another. When one of those things is out of whack, if we kill all the bacteria, that means yeast is going to overgrow, and that's where folks have yeast infections. If we mess with the yeast and we have an overgrowth of bacteria, then we might have something called bacterial vaginosis. And so if we notice like, you know, a cottage cheese kind of discharge in our underwear, or if we have a different scent, like you're like, oh wait, hold on, woo, is that me? That might mean that we have an infection, and that is okay, no big deal. We want to go to the doctor and get that sorted out. And so if it ever smells like fish, yeah, we need to go to the doctor. And if we like take a shower and it's still consistently smelling like fish, then yes, we need to make sure that we're going to the doctor. And it might be something up with the chemicals that we're using in our soap. It could be It could be for some people, they're really sensitive towards the dyes in their underwear. And so for some people, they can only wear white cotton underwear, and that is it, because the things that make our underwear black or pink or, you know, blue, those chemicals could be, you know, somebody could be really sensitive towards those chemicals. Also, the washing detergent, for some people, Tide, and so now you'll notice that they sell like fragrance-free or like chemical-free detergents, because a lot of people can be sensitive towards those things too. So we need to know what's up with our bodies, and it's important to pay attention. A lot of times, because for the folks on here who have vaginas, a lot of times we're shamed and we're put down for our parts or how they may look or how they may smell, and we might feel shame around that. One, there's no need to feel shame, because all of our parts look different, just like all of our faces. If we were all together in the classroom, I would tell everybody to look at each other's faces, because just like we all have different faces, I got big lips, I got a big nose, somebody on here might have thin lips, skinny nose, all different faces. Just like we have a diversity up here, we got a diversity down there. And a lot of times if we watch porn or if we watch different videos where we see those parts may look totally different from our real life parts. But the thing to know is that those people, a lot of times in the porn industry, is what they're doing is bleaching their lips to look pink. Nobody, if you are a person of color, your stuff is not 100% pink. We got spectrums, okay? Just like we have great gradations in our face and our skin tone. Like I have like brown, really brown tan up here, and then it's smooth down. Like our face and our skins change, and that is natural, it's beautiful, it's normal. And so when we're thinking about vaginas and vulvas and how they look, they are anything from pinks all the way to deep purples and browns, right? And we don't typically see the pinks, purples, and browns because they want this certain look, right? That they're trying to push in these videos. And so know that a lot of the parts that we may see, depending on if we do watch porn or depending on the images that we see, for a lot of people, what they do is either they bleach the lips. So for a lot of people, these lips are really like, might be a dark purple or dark browns, and they come in different hues. And they don't look like that in a lot of videos because they're bleaching them. Also, you might notice that they're hairless. Ain't nobody hairless, y'all. Like we all go through puberty and we have hair. Now, the hair is different for some people. Some people, especially those who have really curly hair, they might have bumps, and that's perfectly natural. And the bumps are coming from, because you see these edges right here? They got some curly edges here. What's happening is that your hair is growing like this in the coil, right? And it's trying to grow out. And if it can't find its way out, it starts to bubble up under the skin. Perfectly natural and normal. That happens. It's okay. We might need to like exfoliate a little bit more to caress and massage that hair on out, but that is perfectly normal, natural, and fine. Also, the #2 surgery in the United States and across the globe is something called labiaplasty, where people actually get these lips cut because they don't like them sticking out, and they're actually supposed to be different from everybody. So notice how these lips stick out, these lips might stick out. If you ain't got no lips up here, you may not have no lips down here. Like it is totally fine. Some people got a small top lip, big soup cooler bottom lip, but it's all natural and normal. And so what's happening with labiaplasty is that they're cutting them and they're trying to make them look a certain way. And that is not how we all appear in real life. So I encourage you, just take a moment as a practice to look at your parts and appreciate them, because these parts and the functions of all of them, they're here for a reason, right? The lips are there not only for protection, they're protecting bacteria from going into the vagina, but also they're there for the feel goods, because when we get sexually aroused, blood is flowing into the lips, making them look bigger. They're flowing into the outer lips. The outer lips are where we might see the hair growing. They're flowing there and puffing them up for the feel good sensations. Blood is flowing to the clitoris to let y'all know, hey, it's time, let's do this. It's time to go, feel good. And so it's really important that we take some time to really appreciate our bodies, our body parts, but it's also really important to know what your parts look like, because if there's any time that you need to go to a doctor and be like, look, I don't know what's going on with whatever, you're able to describe what's happening. It's yours. I didn't ask you to look at nobody else's. I want you to look at yours, all right? The other thing with our scent, because we were talking about scent, it's super important to know that you are not supposed to smell like Vanilla Breeze, Island, Tropic, I don't know, whatever, all the flavors that they got at Bath and Body Works, right? That is not what you're naturally supposed to smell like. So I always like to tell people vaginas are supposed to smell like vaginas. And what I mean by that is that we all have a natural aroma, meaning that if you come out of the shower, you wash into your armpits, even though you wash into your armpits and you dry it off, your armpits still have a scent. They still have an aroma. That is your natural aroma. We all have a natural aroma. So for some of us, we might smell like pennies down there. For some of us, we might be a little musky down there. For some of us, depending on what we eat, that's what affects our scent. So I know for me, when I drink coffee, it is it is coffee. For some of us, if we eat garlic and asparagus, that is what we smell like. Also, it is, as I'm saying this, there is nothing that is substantiated, meaning that there is no truth to people eating pineapples and them smelling differently. So if you're like, I just eat a can of pineapple, that just has not been proven to work. But you're more like pungent foods like garlic. If you eat a lot of garlic, if you eat a lot of asparagus, you might smell that. And the reason why, here's the thing, we have pores all over our bodies. We have, especially down there, we got hair, we got sweat, we got pores. We got a whole situation going on, right? And so for us to have this expectation that like, I'm supposed to smell like flowers, that's ridiculous, y'all. That's ridiculous. And don't let them trap you in that either, because this is why we got a whole bunch of products for the folks in the room who have vaginas. This is why they have a whole bunch of products catered to us, because they know we're insecure about it, right? They're making money off of our insecurity, and we don't need any of those products. Notice how they ain't got no mainstream ball spray. Notice how they don't have no special males ain't got no hygiene. There's no male hygiene. They ain't got no male hygiene sprays. Okay, but they got all the stuff for us. They got all the heat for us, right? So to me, it says something, right? And it means that we got to get more in tune with our bodies. We have to be more accepting of our bodies. And the time that you want to freak out is if we are ever smelling like fish. It is our indication that we have an infection. The other thing that I think is so amazing about the vagina as well is that your vagina has a barometer to tell you when things are going well, right? And the barometer is discharge. For so long, and I feel like when I teach my younger students, we're always like, ew, anything that comes out the vagina is gross. And it's not like that for anybody else, right? And so it's like we have to do a lot of undoing. And what I mean by the barometer is that when we look at our discharge, your discharge is telling you, hey, keep going, we good. Our discharge might be like, girl, I don't know what you doing, but stop it. Our discharge might be like, girl, I think you have an infection down here and we need to get checked out, right? And so it's really important to pay attention to that, right? And what I mean by pay attention is take a look, right? For some of us there, and then it also tells us where we are in our cycles. So for folks who have periods, right? So for those of us, we might see certain times in the month where we have a lot of discharge. For some of us, we might have days where we don't see any discharge, and all of that is normal and fine. For some of us during the summertime, we might see a lot of discharge because you are out here sweating, okay? And that's all right. For some of us, the discharge and the scent that we have could also tell us what's happening, right? And so for us who are swimmers, or for those of us here who run track, those, all of that lycra and all of that material does not allow your vagina to breathe. And so sometimes when we might smell a scent, it might be like, girl, it's time to change these underwears or this bathing suit bottom or these tights or whatever it is. Again, trying to let you know what's happening with our bodies. If it's ever a different color, we want to be mindful. So if it's ever on the pinkish reddish side, it might mean that your period is coming, or you might be spotting, or you might be coming off your period. If it's ever green, and this is both for males and females, it is a sign of infection. You want to skedaddle to your doctor and figure out what's happening, all right? So I say all this to say, and of course I have a million more things I could say about, the original question was around things to know about feminine health. It's just, I can speak for days about this. But the thing to know is that there's nothing wrong with our bodies. Our bodies are all unique and wonderful. And it's not just for folks with vaginas. There is a lot of insecurity for folks with penises around size, because that's the #1 thing that they hear all the time, right? And so they have a lot, they may not have ball sprays, but they might have products catered towards them around, like, this is how you get your penis bigger. And those are not safe. So if you know anybody taking those, or if you get in some for your penis at the gas station, stop. Don't do that. Don't do that. We don't know what's in those products. And a lot of times what those products do, they're trying to speed up the heart rate in order to drive more blood to the penis so that it can appear larger. But it's also putting a strain on our hearts, and we don't know what the heck is in those. Those chemicals are not regulated. So if you would like natural ways for all of those things to happen, I would Google it. I can help you out with some tips. But again, there's nothing we can do about change in penis size. So there's a lot of things that us ordinary people can't do to change these. So it's really important for us to embrace and learn how to love our bodies. It's the only one we got, and it's there to serve us and bring us so many great things, all right? All right, so another question I got was around HPV vaccine. So HPV is also known as human papilloma virus. And that is one of the STDs that I was talking about that doesn't necessarily need to be spread through penetration. It can be spread through skin-to-skin contact. HPV, or human papilloma virus, is very common. So it is said that 80% of the population in the world as adults will have HPV in their lifetimes. The thing about HPV, which is so interesting, is that there is no specific way that we can know for sure, depending on the bodies that we have, if we have HPV. HPV is also the virus that can cause cervical, vaginal, penile, anal, and oral mouth cancers. And so it is serious, but it's also one of those things that a lot of us are carriers and may not even know, and it doesn't cause any damage, and we're totally fine. And so the thing about HPV, it's really important that if we have a vagina, that we are getting our pap test, because what happens during our pap smears and our pap test, the doctor is not only taking swabs of cells, and when I say swabs, it's just a really quick, like, boop, bop, and they're trying to get cells to ensure that that all your cells are okay. You don't have cervical cancer, and that's the only way we'll know that. But also, your doctors they're looking at your cervix, and your cervix is, you can't really see it here, but this is your uterus. The cervix is the end portion of your uterus, and so in real life, it looks like a pink donut hole. And basically the inside of that hole is about the size of a Lifesaver candy hole. So imagine, for the folks in here who have a uterus, right? The Lifesaver candy hole opens up if we're ever going to have a baby, really wide to let a baby out. So it's super duper duper important that when we get our pap smear, the doctor takes a look, they're looking visually to see if we have anything called dysplasia, which basically means that do we see any growths or white stuff growing on the cervix? Like I said, it's supposed to look like a pink donut, a pink glazed donut. And so if we ever see anything weird or bleeding a lot, that is another sign that our doctor might tell us to like take an extra test, or, your doctor might say, look, I saw something, but let's wait for a couple of months and see if this progresses, and then, come back. All right. And so it's really important that we get that pap smear done when we become of age. The guidelines for pap smears has changed. Now I believe it is folks who are 21 and up. And if you don't have any cervical cancer, vaginal cancers in your family history, they'll most likely tell you to come in every 5 years. So the regulations have changed. When I was, younger, they said like every single year. And so it just really depends on like your family history. It depends on what's happening in your body as to like how they'll make the determination to see how often you need to take your pap test. But it's just one of those things that, an added preventative measure, especially if you have a vagina, to get checked out. And if you care about somebody with a vagina, you will tell them to get their pap smears as well. Men are carriers for HPV, but there's no test for men. All right. And so a lot of them are carriers. They don't know it. And typically like a lot of the time, people who have HPV don't even know it, doesn't show any signs or symptoms. And which is another reason why, when we're just talking about STDs in general, it's super important that even if we don't see any signs or symptoms, meaning that it might be asymptomatic, meaning that we don't see any symptoms, that it's super important that if we are sexually active, that we get tested with every partner, or at least every 6 months to a year. And so what happens when we get tested is testing you for today backwards. And it takes time to show up. So if you had sex yesterday, you cannot come into the clinic and be like, you can get tested, but it's not going to test you for what just happened. It's going to test you for what happened before that. And so it's just really important as just like a preventative measure, as just being a safe and healthy person, being a responsible sexually active person, that we are getting tested with each of those partners. And for people with penises, that involves peeing in the cup. Some old school doctors, the way that they used to test for STDs with people with penises is that they would have a cotton swab into the urethra, into the penis, to check. And so we've changed now. Technology has changed, where you can pee in the cup. Also for people with vaginas, you can pee in the cup. And then depending on what they're looking for, they might just do like a visual scan. So peeing in the cup for your STDs, and so mostly, chlamydia, gonorrhea, that's the way that they'll test. For HIV, there is a rapid test where they'll take, I was going to do this, you don't have to do this anymore. They'll take a finger prick of blood and you will get your results within 20 minutes, no matter what clinic you go to. If you go out and do like a testing event, they may not give you the results in 20 minutes. They might just call you with the results. But getting tested for STDs, super simple, peeing in the cup and then getting a finger prick of blood. We can all do it. We can all make it happen. And again, at the health department and at Planned Parenthood, we are a sliding fee scale, meaning that everything we do is according to your income. So no income, you don't have to pay anything. If you have insurance, we'll take that. Higher income, you'll pay. So just be mindful of that. And again, if you need anything, please let me know. I know I went over my time, but I definitely appreciate you all sitting here, having this conversation, asking so many great questions. And if you have any more questions, again, I left my number up in the chat, and I also left my email as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate to reach out to Brianna to get in touch with me, and let me know if you need those condoms or dental dams, lube, or any support in helping set up an appointment. So y'all, I had a really good time, and if we don't have any more questions, I will not hold you any longer. And I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Y'all were great. Y'all had some really good questions. This is really awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And maybe next time we could do this in person. Oh, thank you. I love to come back. I love to come back. I try to, you know, keep it going. But y'all, thank you again. Let me know if you need anything. Yes, Tiffany, feel free to reach out. Amazon, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here and asking questions. And if you have any more questions, again, please don't hesitate to